Good morning, Shelley. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. It's good to be here.
Good. Glad to have you back.
How are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
Let's get into it.
So, through this list, you have this list of 500 things. We talked about that a few videos ago.
3 down?
3 down.
497
I think we have 3 or 4
to go.
down, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about truth. And this is an interesting subject because without truth, there's no healing. We talk a lot off the show, not necessarily in preparation, but just in discussion on things we're going to talk about. Mm-hmm. And that's so key. And I talked to a few counselors, a psychologist about this, and the same question, like how important is truth in a relationship, right? And without that, first of all, you don't know who you are. Like, you don't know just what's going on in your life. In a relationship, I think you should be truthful.
Yes.
With your partner.
Well, I think without truth, you don't know who you are, and you don't know who you're with if they're not truthful. Right?
Mm-hmm. So let's apply that to a relationship. Say you're in a relationship with somebody, and maybe you didn't tell them something about your history, and you react to something different, or you trigger on something, and they don't have that information. Mm-hmm. It's not like it's a lie, but it's like if you don't share the whole truth, then it actually hurts you in the end. Would you agree with that?
Yes, that's where, that's what I call taking your past wound and turning that into a weapon against the other person. So if I'm triggered by something and my partner has no idea what that is because I haven't shared it, because I'm afraid or I'm worried about their reaction or I'm embarrassed or I'm shameful, whatever it is, and they have no clue, something happens, I'm triggered, and then I freak out or I shut down or whatever it is, but it changes the course of the next hours, days, whatever, or just the course of our relationship, right. Then I've taken that wound, I've turned it into a weapon, used it against them, and they have no power there. They have no ability to try to correct or address or help me or help us. So right. It's definitely an issue, and it's all based on untruth.
Yeah, it seems like it always comes out one way or another, right? So here's a funny thing. When I was driving in and I called you on the way in, and you were like, "Hey, you're kind of being a dick," and I was like, "Really? I didn't even know. Like I didn't even notice it, right?" And then you said something else, and you're like, "Let's unpack that," and I was like, "Yeah, okay. I never really did that before. I didn't even know I was being different." Right. And we unpacked that, and I had a conversation with my ex-wife yesterday that was really impactful about something that happened in our past, and that she knew something about traumatic events in my life that I didn't even know I told her, and I was unpacking that yesterday, and I didn't do all the work last night with that, and it was affecting me this morning, but you called it out, and that's one of those red flags, and you called that out based on how I was acting, how I was talking. I didn't even notice it, right? But it was bothering me. I just didn't know, right?
Well, and what's interesting about that is, we talk about relationships. This doesn't apply to just partnerships. It applies to, friendships. You and I have a relationship that this has, become a thing that we're doing, and it's very connected, right?
Sure.
So I know the nuances of your personality and things you're saying and
Which
what that means.
Which is super dynamic, by the way.
It is. It's awesome, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's family, it's friends, it's coworkers, it's relationships are relationships. It's people. It's two people, right? Mm-hmm. So when you know what someone's normal range of behavior is, or words or tones or whatever, and something feels different, and you don't say anything, and you just let that slide, I'm going to say, then that person's not being truthful. And by not saying anything, you're buying into that. Mm-hmm. So when you tried to tell me, no, I'm just trying to keep it surface because I want to wait till we get to the studio so I can go deep. Right. I called bullshit.
You did. That was good.
Only because I really know. Mm-hmm. But I'm also a kind of person who's not going to not call bullshit, right? So I think if more people are connected to the truth, which they are, but then willing to live the truth, address the truth, look at the truth, and own it, and then call it out when they see an untruth, then things would be a lot different for people.
I think you'd have a much healthier relationship, whether it's a friendship, a professional relationship, whatever it is. It's so key in that, right? We talked about, I was on a conference call yesterday with my construction company. We were talking about safety, right? And that's always a big thing in construction and all this kind of stuff we do. But truth came up there too. it's like if you have a shitty day or you had a rough night, or like I was saying, I had, that conversation with my ex. It wasn't in a bad way in any way, but it just brought up like a lot of emotions for me, right? And knowing that going into work or doing something, like even here in the studio, if somebody had a really shitty night or you didn't sleep or whatever, hey, how you doing this morning? Oh man, you know what? I didn't really sleep that well last night or whatever. I feel fantastic because this is super cool and I'm in that mode. But in reality, I think people need to say like, hey, I'm not doing my best today. I'm not on my game today, or I'm a little bit off today. That's part of truth too. And I think in a relationship, you need to say that as well. Like, it's not always going to be roses and rainbows, And being able to communicate with somebody and feeling that safety is huge.
We talked about this yesterday with the overuse of and the acceptability of I'm fine and I'm good.
Right.
Just as a blanket.
Right.
Because we're not.
Right.
And I've just taken on this thing where when people ask me, I'm like, I'm kind of tired.
Yeah. Like, that's true.
Or I'm like, I'm okay, but I'm kind of tired.
Mm-hmm.
Or you know what? I have a lot going on, so I'm a little overwhelmed. I mean,
Yeah.
I just like give this thing, and I'm not trying to put my shit on anybody.
Right.
But I'm trying to, first of all, be truthful with myself and not to stuff it anymore like
Right.
I used to do. And, I was fine for 30 years. I'm not so fine sometimes. And I'm okay with not being fine.
That's a good thing, though. That's okay. That's
That's
reality.
why
That's being genuine.
I'm not a fan of the fine and the okay because we overuse it.
So I get gas the other day and I go into the Circle K like to get a Monster or whatever I was getting, I don't know. So I'm checking out and this guy is like pissed off, He's just in a bad mood, you can just tell. Mm-hmm. And I was like, hey man, I hope your day gets better. And he goes, you know what, I'm just tired of people telling me what to do. And I was like, I said, well, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I was kind of just like this, just a regular dialogue like I always am. And then I put my credit card in the little machine or whatever, and he's like, okay, take your credit card out. And the guy behind me goes, don't tell him what to do. And we all start laughing, And then I was like, hey, man, I really hope your day gets better, and, don't worry about their stuff. He's like, wow, thank you so much. But if he'd have been just like, oh, yeah, I'm good, I'm fine, we wouldn't have had that joking around dialogue, like to set him back. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if we helped him.
Or
Like,
if he was sarcastic and he's like, living the dream, but really it's like he's the opposite of living the dream.
Yeah.
His day is shit.
Right, and that's okay to have a shitty day, and it's okay not to be okay, right? Yeah. But like you were saying, and even those little things in life that you notice when people talk or they behave, or like me on the phone this morning, that's huge. And really what this is all about, like this show is all about that. It's all about, there's a red flag, like you notice something's different, and it may not be trauma. It may be somebody's not being truthful about whatever, but you have to turn over those rocks. You can't let that go. Because what happens with that is if you let it go, then you start believing the bullshit. Well, then you don't want to bring it up again, right? Because then you almost like you're exposing that you lied or that you weren't truthful or transparent. Because later on in the evening, if you're like, man, you know what, this morning I was really pissed and I didn't want to say anything. Mm-hmm. Well, then now we're playing that game, right? And that's not healthy. So when somebody asks you how you're doing, then say how you're doing because they asked you. Right?
It's absolutely easier. And we talked about this, the truth will set you free.
It will. It for sure will.
It frees you from whatever anxieties are attached to trying to hide the lies or just trying to convince yourself that everything is okay.
Yeah.
And it frees the other person who's with you so that they can be themselves and respond honestly.
Yeah.
Because that's where the magic is.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone is like tethering themselves to the untruth or to the facade. And to the highlight reel of life that we're all living, right? Which is, everything that social media has created. So no one's willing to be real. And that's what truth is all based on. It's just reality and that self-awareness and understanding and allowing and creating a safe space for partners, friends, everybody in your life who's in your relationships to also be real.
And if you're not being real, then that just overflows into all kinds of different things. And I think a lot of people in relationships aren't real. Like, I'm going to tell my truth today, and it's gnarly. Like, I probably will never date again. It's totally okay. But whatever, I'm going to say it. And the reason why is because if people don't know my history, then they don't really know me, right? Like, you can't know me unless you know my history. And I wouldn't tell everybody, but definitely somebody that I'm intimate with should know, right? And
everybody's going to know today, Scott.
Well, everybody's going to know today, right. And then we joked the other day, like, you know what, if you want to date one of us, then just watch the videos and let us know.
Watch the videos.
Yeah,
that's right.
then like you can go from there.
Yeah.
But
we're just going to need a reaction scale.
Yeah, like from 1 to 10.
Sure.
Yeah, if you're in like 5 and less, then
Yeah.
we're cool.
If you're in the green zone, maybe we'll have a conversation.
So I was gonna make one more comment. We were out the other day, not we, but me and some friends were out the other day, and this gal was talking about her friend, who's, it's not about like sexuality or whatever, but she's bisexual and she slept with a bunch of women. She had some relationships with some women, and then she met this guy, and they're gonna get married, and she's not gonna tell this guy, and I was like, that's a big freaking secret. That's almost
that's a
like
big chunk of secret.
yeah.
Wow.
And then the discussion was, well, should he know? And I was like, absolutely he should know. Like, but what if he told somebody, or what if he let the secret out, or whatever? Well, if you tell somebody your truth, why would they betray you? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. People betray, or I'm not going to say all the time, right? Like, we're not mental health professionals, but it seems to me that people betray and they become threatened when they don't know the truth, because they're like trying to figure it out. They know something's wrong, like you did this morning, but they're trying to figure it out. And that brings insecurity and jealousy and all these other things based on those items, right?
Right.
So I can't imagine being in an intimate relationship with somebody and not knowing something that big. Like, you don't have to tell me like every single person you slept with
Massive
or
rock
whatever,
you're trying to hide.
but that's a big deal, right?
Yes.
So, and I don't know, like, we could argue if that's cheating or whatever, I don't know. But I'm just saying that dishonesty breeds more dishonesty. It breeds distrust. It breeds unhealthy. It breeds toxic.
Well, at some point, something would come out, likely. Something somewhere is probably going to poke its head out.
Right.
And then look what that'll do to ruin, like, all the trust, ruin possibly the relationship, ruin the future.
Right.
And it could be irreparable.
Absolutely.
So just by telling the truth from the get-go,
yeah.
it makes for smoother sailing.
Right? Because if somebody's not okay with your truth from the get-go, then it might never
That's
be
not
a
your
relationship,
person.
right? Then it may not be a relationship, and then you're good. But if they find out down the road, well, then there's like betrayal and all kinds of stuff. I think you can always be like, hey, I didn't tell you this because of these reasons and blah, blah, blah. I hope you can forgive me. That's a different conversation.
Sure.
But when you find out later on, you're like, nah, that doesn't work, right? That's a big deal. I think that's a huge thing, right? Especially if other people out there know, then you look like the stooge,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
So-
The last one to find out when you're the closest one to the person.
Yeah, I know we're going to have a lot more conversations on truth, but I think this was a really good intro to just like a basic idea of what we're doing here and how important it is to healing.
Foundational stuff.
Absolutely, but you can't, if there's any issue in your life and you're not truthful about it, if you can't be at least truthful with yourself, then you don't know what to work on, right?
Right.
Like your car breaks down and you say, oh, my tire went flat, but it's not your tire, you really ran out of gas. Well, everybody's messing with the wrong thing. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's so critical to just be self-aware and have that courage to do it. And I'll say that when I went through counseling, I saw a psychologist for a while, and I actually called her, and I was like, hey, I need to consult with you on some stuff, and she's amazing. And I was like, what was I like when I very first started? And she's like, well, you were kind of off and on, and you really weren't committed. And then one day you came in here, and you were like here every week. And it was like you were game on.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, because I started telling the truth. Before, I just was like, hey, can you help me out?
Do you remember when that shift happened? Yourself?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
It was a significant event. And I remember like,
It's usually a significant emotional event.
and you think, but sometimes the thing about trauma is some people think that trauma is like death and destruction and the world
Right.
blew up, but it's really not. It could be like a social relationship type thing that really, really hurts you because you don't know the truth or because you didn't talk about it or whatever. And it was one of those situations that I just wasn't ready to know the truth, right? So
Right.
anyways, that's our intro to the truth. We appreciate everybody watching. Scott Freymuller, Shelley Netco. Talk to you soon.